Equal portion. Equal portion. Equal portion. Equal portion. Equal portion. Equal portion.
Afternoon, and welcome back to another episode of Equal Portions. I'm your host, Seychelle Amira, and on today's episode, we're going to continue our discussion of the Food Justice Film Festival, followed by the story of food, and as always, we'll be playing the best DMV music. We're going to start off with a couple of tunes and then head right into our discussion.
Pressure is building, I'm ready and willing to make love, to take drugs, to burn out on gray stuff. Our past lives, our last cries are drowning in bright light. The poison of cheap wine in your hand without mine. Who will die? Who will start? Who can feel this holding my heart? The moment my work's done, I make drowned sounds for someone so loaded and vacant, a blank stare so baseless. You're rising, I'm falling, the siren is calling. Like Amy, like Janice, our voices can move planets. Some will die, some will start. Who can feel this holding my heart? Some will rise, some will crawl. Who among us defies the fall? It's alright to tell me what you think about me. I screw up and break stuff and make love to your hatred. Roll a rock and make a wish, break a window and dream a bit. Pack my bags and board a plane, Greece to Italy, France and Spain. Come back home and share the world, give the moon to my favorite girl. Perfect family and a lovely home, such a wonderful life with heart and soul. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it grind you down into the earth? I hate my job in this crummy town, watching wheels spin round and round. Old man Potter, he holds the cards, says old George won't make it far. The bastard's blowing smoke in your eye, laughing as he bleeds you dry. Is there some way out of this bad dream? I wanna be an optimist like George Bailey. it's hotter in the middle, and it's even worse in Potter's Griddle. He's always had me in his sights, sure to make me pay a price. He was ready when I made a mistake, so severe it could make or break me. Gotta pay this debt somehow, I sure could use my moon right now. Make my way down to the bridge, wishing I was never born. A stranger drops in for a chat, we talk about the life I have. See a world where I get my wish, and oh my God, it went to shit. Start for home as the bell rings. What do they say about angels' wings? Is there some way out of this bad dream? I wanna be an optimist like George Bailey. I want to be a hero, I wanna be a friend. How will I be remembered in the end? Andrew Wink. Is there some way out of this bad dream? I wanna be an optimist like George Bailey. I wanna be a hero, I wanna be your friend. How will I be remembered in the
That was the Grim Winter Band with Like George Bailey and Falling Up. Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This week, our producer Jasmine Lawrence returns as we continue our discussion on the Food Justice Film Festival. Today, we are covering the third film, Into the Weeds, directed by Jennifer Bachwal and produced by Jennifer Bachwal and Nicolas de Pincier. But first, we have our This or That.
Hello, hello. Happy
Hello,
Monday.
hello.
And happy Veterans Day.
Happy Veterans Day!
All right. So this week, I want to kind of tie together a couple of our past week's conversations. Last week we were team crops against team animals when it comes to farming. And another kind of through line has really been about farming. So this week's This or That is going to be community gardens or urban farms. Now, they both provide fresh produce, foster community in some capacity, as well as support sustainability. But there's a few key areas that make them different when it comes to their purpose, focus, the scale, as well as the impact. So I'm going to go through some of the key differences, and then we can talk about it. So community gardens are primarily aimed at providing individuals or families with spaces to grow their own foods. They often have different plots that can be rented or shared, whereas urban gardens or urban farms focus on producing food at a larger scale, often to supply local markets, restaurants, food distribution programs, etc. So kind of thinking about that, community gardens are going to be much smaller, whereas urban farms are meant to be a lot more larger and organized with dedicated staff. And then when it comes to community gardens, a lot of this is really meant to bond and give the residents a place to really address food insecurity with their neighborhood, and that kind of shared responsibility of like teaching gardening skills and just providing gathering space really influences and instills like a great sense of community, like, but more on like a smaller individual level. Whereas urban farms are going to have a larger impact on food access and food security that, you know, might be running educational programs or employing local residents and selling produce at affordable prices, but it's really meant to be on a much larger scale. Would love to kind of get into this a lot later. There's another topic of like regenerative agriculture when it comes to urban farming that I think would be a great topic for us to explore later. But to kind of pause there, love to throw it over to you, Seish, or are you at community gardens and urban farms? And this is like for right now.
Okay. This is a hard one. I like that you specify for right now, because I definitely feel like for right now, I'm going to go community gardens, and in the future, I would say urban farming. So for me right now, I'm thinking community gardens because I'm really focusing on third spaces and community just in general. In my neighborhood, I know I wanted to make it more of a habit to get to know my neighbors and just engage more. Being such a big foodie in general too, I love the idea of like everybody's different plot in their community garden, maybe having like different types of foods, like someone specializes in growing this, someone specializes in growing that. The idea of like sharing your crops with your neighbors and sharing recipes through the crops, like, oh, you can use this spice or you can use this vegetable to make this, or you can use this to make that. And I just like the idea of that and just coming together and starting from scratch on your plot and growing it and then sharing joy and like watching other people's plots grow. I think that really like appeals to me.
Development, the growth, like that's like a team effort.
Exactly, it's a team effort. It's like where we're bonding together through the seasons. As our friendship grows, so does our crop.
I love that so much. I'm literally the opposite, but I think, like I said, it's for the right now, like where I'm at in my life. I'm living in Brooklyn, and I'm in a very urban area, Bushwick to be exact. And so I think it would make a lot more sense for me to have an urban, or to like participate in an urban farm. And there actually is an urban garden that my church community has, but I haven't like volunteered with them in some time. But I really love the idea of the area that I am in. It has such a capacity to serve a larger community, and right. I think I am looking forward to. I think when I get in a different stage of life and I live in more of a community or a more residential or more suburban area, and I think it would make a little bit more sense at that point to be able to really invest into a community garden and really engage with my community in that way. I think even if I lived in a bigger building, or maybe we did have like a plot of land inside of that building, or like, you know, sometimes apartment buildings will have like a little garden complex area that might be in the center of the building. But it will be like an outside space in the center. Some buildings are set up that way. But I think that would be cute, but the building I live in is pretty small. So I'm thinking urban gardens or urban farms for right now, and then would hopefully graduate to a community garden and like to live out my days that way.
Love that, man.
All right. Yeah, we'd love to kind of continue the conversation with you all on socials. We're at Equal Portions on Facebook and Instagrams. That's EQUALPORTIONS. That's Equal Portions on Facebook and Instagram. Let us know, are you team community gardens, team urban farms, team, I might, be both. I might, be open to switching, in different stages of life. But would love to, hop right into the conversations, get right into the weeds.
All right, folks. So Into the Weeds focuses on the effects Monsanto's weed killer Roundup has had on people, farming, and the environment. Roundup's key active ingredient is glyphosate, which has been linked to genetic damage for over 40 years. Globally, 736 million pounds of glyphosate is used in agriculture every year. The film interviewed farmers who maintained that in most crop farms, weeds needed to be killed. Therefore, the use of these chemicals is necessary in order to maintain profitability. In order to maximize your yield, you have to minimize your infestation of weeds. Roundup is such an ingrained part of the industry that there are even Roundup-ready crops. Canola, soy, cotton, and corn are some of the main crops of which millions of pounds are used annually worldwide. But Roundup is also used outside of farming in sidewalks, roadways, parking lots, athletic fields, trails, and more, as well as for non-commercial use. While it is important to know the background of glyphosate and its use, the film's actual heart is Lee Johnson's story and his battle in court with Monsanto. The film starts off with an introduction to Lee Johnson. As the film introduces Lee, the camera work places much emphasis on Lee's skin, which is heavily marked with lesions and plaques. Lesions caused by an accident with Roundup in which he was soaked in the product. This is also highlighted in order to begin to introduce the pain and sickness that has consumed Lee Johnson's life. From here, you can truly see the effects of the glyphosate, and it is admittedly extremely hard to watch. It's meant to elicit a reaction, and it definitely does. Lee Johnson worked as a school groundskeeper in Benicia, California, where he regularly used the Roundup for his job. The focus is then switched to the litigators behind the lawsuit towards Monsanto. The case was framed as being about choice, to make a choice on which chemicals to expose oneself to and not be deprived of the information needed to make that choice. The litigators alleged that Monsanto knew that the primary ingredient could induce tumors and lead to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a form of cancer. There is much debate over whether the EPA has incorrectly categorized glyphosate. The EPA Cancer Assessment Review Committee classified glyphosate at a 5, with 5 symbolizing not likely to be carcinogenic to humans. This is on a scale of 1 to 5, in which 1 denotes that something is carcinogenic to humans. Although over the last 40 years, many studies of rats and mice show that glyphosate can produce tumors, and since 1998, multiple studies have shown that Roundup is associated with malignant lymphoma. Lee Johnson continually reached out to Monsanto about the lesions he discovered, and Monsanto never responded back to him. He followed the instructions on the product to a T to remain as safe as possible, but even so, there was no warning on the label stating that it could cause cancer. The label also assured that the basic protective gear would be enough protection while using the spray. Many farmers echoed Lee's complaints of wanting the choice to know, to not be misled. For 40 years, Monsanto worked to cover up and conceal research. The Monsanto papers slowly began to be released starting March 2017. The release of the Monsanto papers informed the general public on Monsanto's doings, compiling internal documents, investigative articles, emails, reports, and memos from within the company and their connections. For the final verdict on Johnson versus Monsanto, the jury decided in favor of Johnson, asserting that Monsanto did not adequately warn against the risk of Roundup and acted with malice. Punitive damages of $250 million were awarded. However, it was reduced to $21 million after various appeals by the Bayer Corporation who had acquired Monsanto. Nevertheless, this set off a chain reaction and set a precedent for other cases. Currently, Monsanto is not selling Roundup with glyphosate. Instead, these products will use a combination of other active ingredients. Jazz, thoughts?
All right. So, yeah, I definitely had a couple of first thoughts when I was watching the film. Jennifer Bajwal, her goal was really to be able to create a historical record of the entire Monsanto case and the entire Monsanto situation, especially once Bayer acquired the organization or the company. She really wanted to focus on something that wasn't a transcript, but felt comprehensive and felt digestible. And every claim in the film was backed by data, or it was made in court. So it was very particular in that way, and I think it feels like it is a very good kind of like understanding and non-biased record. Now, I was curious about how Bayer and Monsanto, so sorry, I don't know, I can't say Monsanto, actually responded to the film once it came out. And I wasn't able to find anything about them directly responding to the film. However, they've got about $10 billion in settlements to focus on and some other pending cases, so I'm sure they're busy.
They don't have the time.
They don't have the time. There was another publication, though, the Genetic Literacy Project. They were one of the publications that was cited as, like, they're in the pocket of Monsanto, and they're in cahoots, like they're basically writing whatever they tell them to write. They did respond. They wrote, anti-chemical film Into the Weeds is wrong on the facts, and it's a tort lawyer's dream. Did the lawyers in the organic industry fund it? A lot of Canadian organizations funded the film, but the article overall just kind of discusses the fact that they think a lot of the tort lawyers that were responsible for the 125,000 plaintiffs and kind of like pulling together all of their stories, and really going through all of the studies and research on glyphosate and the Monsanto case overall. Like, they were working on their behalf, but they felt like they were so corrupt, and that glyphosate actually has ecological value, and this whole film was meant to discredit and misrepresent Monsanto. But I think you should watch the film and kind of like, come to conclusions yourself based off of the information that was presented. That is all factual. We actually see all of the documents in the film as well. Another immediate thought that came to mind was I got a little scared because earlier this year I had bought an insecticide that I wanted to use to be able to help my plants. I meant to buy neem oil because I've been hearing about this, being a plant mom. But the product itself, it wasn't Roundup, and it wasn't by Monsanto or like Bayer, any organization like that. But it was only 1% neem oil and like 99% other ingredients, and I couldn't actually find the other ingredients listed online.
99% is crazy.
Website. It was crazy. Just other ingredients, like I don't even know the list, and apparently it's banned in a couple states like Virginia. I only used it once, but it is apparently toxic to bees and aquatic organisms, which, I guess maybe that's the point if it's an insecticide, but I think it is a little important. I'm like, oh, I should be a little bit more mindful, and like if it says 99 other ingredients, and I'm just so quick to buy it because I want some neem oil, like maybe I should be making some different decisions around that. Another thing that really stood out to me was the scale. Obviously, like when the film very first started, I was seeing like, presented by, this is a Canadian director, and this is Canada Media Film, Telefilm Canada, Ontario Creators. I was like, what's going on? What's all this Canada stuff?
What's all this Canada?
Yeah, I was like, I thought this was like an American film. But no, like this Monsanto case and just the struggles, I think, when it comes to glyphosate as an ingredient and as like a product or a chemical has like been affecting multiple countries all around the world. There's been protests all the way as far as like Tokyo since 2013 to Buenos Aires in 2019. In Berlin in 2020. So it's really been all around the world, and it's actually banned in multiple countries. Costa Rica has banned it specifically for their protected wild areas, but Colombia and Bermuda have banned it indefinitely overall. Some of this is just for glyphosate as a chemical, and then some of this is for Roundup as a product. 6 Middle Eastern countries have banned it. Brazil has suspended the use. A province in India, Kerala, has banned glyphosate. So it was like I was really, I think,
Austria and Belgium too.
Yeah, like it really
One
kind
of
of,
the
I
list.
was taken aback, I think, to see just the scale of like how, and obviously like farming and agriculture is a global business, but I think I just really didn't understand the scale of this issue.
Right.
And it was like, yeah, we all need to be talking about it. We all need to be bringing this to the forefront. Another thing that this really made me think of is like kind of like the issues of like cigarettes and like the tobacco industry and like lead. I'm curious, like if you were drawing any of those same conclusions and like what kind of your like initial thoughts were as you were seeing the film.
Yeah, especially when you say lead, I think of like the 70s, 60s, 50s, like all the problems that stemmed from having lead be around people so much back then. From, they said it was affecting people's mental abilities to make decisions. Crime rate was up, like all the stuff that like has to do with that. And I'm like, those type of things weren't seen till like 20 years down the road, right? Like you couldn't see the effects of lead until like, years and years in the future. So that just scares me for stuff like this, because I'm like, we're already seeing like some effects now, right? But I'm sure that there's many more effects that we won't know until way further down the line. And that comes with like a lot of stuff that we're using now. Like, you're hearing so much about what's going on with like microplastics and stuff like that. It's like you won't really know the full scale effect of all this stuff until decades from now. And that's very concerning.
It is. And, obviously I think, this does have an impact on everyone because glyphosate has like really even impacted the seeds in the soil to the point where there's traces of glyphosate in many of the crops and many of the produce and many of the grains that we are eating today. There was many farmers that were interviewed during the film, and they called this a farmer's disease, and it really felt like they were giving themselves up for the crops. Like at the end of the day, this is their business, this is their livelihood, this is what they do for their families, but this is also what they're doing on behalf of the industry.
Yeah.
And they're exposed to this for the longest. One of the farmers, Farmer Gary Gadd, shared like in broad scale farming, it's really hard not to accept the technology that's being offered to you. And it feels almost inevitable because, you have to maintain profitability. Demand is so high, margins are so low. And, I think it would have been nice, I think, for them to have the knowledge, of course. And I think that's all they're asking for, is to have the knowledge to know that this is what they are exposing themselves to.
Make an educated decision, yeah.
But it also does feel a little bit like inevitable, and like what are the other options that they have, because this is the most popular weed killer on the market. And if they know that this is what if they know that, this is what the industry is demanding and requiring of them, then, how do they stay in the game?
You're right.
But
it's
also
like
not kill themselves to do it.
Exactly. Livelihood versus health. Which one are you gonna pick? And you got people relying on you. It's a very hard decision.
Absolutely. Another concern was just the politics of science and the agenda that people have to make results favorable. I was seeing a lot of, bullying of journalists and of scientists from Monsanto to really like cover up what this research was. Like it was absolutely not a 5. It was maybe a 3 on the scale. Like it's more of like a possibly, or like it has traces of like carcinogenic, leading properties, but it's not non-carcinogenic. And I think for them to try to play that off and downplay that and like bury that just felt really like that was like the true definition of corruption. And I think that the effects that ends up having on like public health, like I don't want to be so scared of everything, but that I don't want to be fearful, but that does, it does feel like the state of public health is concerning, where money gets put before everything.
Who's getting paid to say what, declare what?
But it also leads to a heavy importance for experts and, as much as we can as consumers, is to know how to read data and come to appropriate conclusions. But I think a lot of the time, even in their cases, they were misreading the data, or they were reading the data and coming to inappropriate conclusions where they were not,
or the conclusion they wanted from the data.
I mean,
can be interpreted different ways, and then data can be framed in certain ways to be more beneficial to one side or another.
Yeah. Later in the film, I'd done a little bit of research about the director and about the film afterwards. And I was also curious kind of like how they even got this film done, because I know Monsanto was sniffing about everywhere trying to cover up everything. But they had actually kind of, this was a smaller part in the film, but this is how they had kind of presented what this film was going to be about for any, funders. And this is like how it was marked, basically, was that it was really going to talk about the ecosystem and like how the impact of like different chemicals have on insects, and just how like largely that affects the land. And so Ray Owl is a traditional ecological knowledge elder. He lives on like one of the First Nation areas. And he was really talking about like how the ecosystem is affected. They've been spraying the weeds of the land for over 50 years. And they had started in the 70s with these peck cans that they actually hired the kids to do, like students to do by hand. And then they ended up graduating all the way up to helicopters where it's aerial spraying over this forest. And I mean, oh my gosh, you can see in the video, like the trees are dead, like the land is devastated. And the insects are gone. The land is sterile. And it really put an emphasis on like the fact that, and we've been talking about this, throughout all of the films, of just how we're all connected, and, not just as people and not like within our causes, but all living organisms are linked in this ecosystem. They brought out entomologists to like study the impact of like harming insects have on the ecosystem overall. And like the fact that, we're really losing our biodiversity. This is affecting the soil. This is affecting like the ecosystem overall. Like insects all have a role in our ecosystem.
Right.
They all have a role to play in our land. Right. So it's just, there's a lot of consequences, and there's a lot of effects that this is having. And these First Nation folks, like they're also, fighting on their behalf to not have their lands be devastated in this way. It's kind of like another thing with like, the Dolores film, where it's like you might just have to keep fighting and protesting for years. And that's how you are able to show your powers, to be unrelenting. Like these people are unrelenting, like these Monsanto people are unrelenting.
6 Smithfield is unrelenting.
I mean, they're all of the corporations. Lawyer Mike, though, we all need to get us a Lawyer Mike. I thought he was so funny. This is like back to the law, back to the courtroom. Everything he was just so prepared and so tactful. In every conversation that he had, and every kind of like pointed remark that he would make. One of the main doctors that was like on the stand was Dr. William Hayden's. And apparently he had threatened someone, and Lawyer Mike was like, it's fair to say, like, you told this woman that you would strangle Dr. Williams if he ever wanted to write a paper. And he was like, I don't recall. And immediately he was like, Exhibit 326 reads this, showed him the receipt, showed him the receipts, showed him the paper. And he was like, oh, I guess I did put that in the email. And I thought it was so crazy overall, just how many times we saw Monsanto, like in writing, go to cover this up, cover up the studies, like, bully the journalists, bully the scientists. Like they had it. It was irrefutable. They had so much in writing. Bold. It was like, did you even try? Like it was blatant. It was like Like, I don't even
I just
know
think
if
you're
this is
so
like,
cocky at that point. I think it's like you get so cocky, you feel like, oh, I'm so powerful. It's just like
who's gonna
nothing
catch
can
this?
happen. Exactly, who's gonna get this? Exactly. So you just start putting everything in there. You start putting threats. They're talking about being happy about getting people to change their minds on certain things and being like, I'm going to convince this guy to say this. And they're placing like bets on it. It's comedy.
Yeah.
It was comedy to them, honestly.
It was. And I mean, to be fair, like they really did have the bag. Like they had the EPA, they had government organizations, they had publications, like these things that are meant to be independent. Like they had these people in their bag, in their hand, manipulating them. And I thought that was like the most wild thing. I mean, that's what a multi-billion-dollar corporation is going to do. But oh my gosh, like it was really, like I'm glad we got to see, I think, this all play out.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was about $10 billion in settlements for about 125,000 cases. And, you know, I really feel for those people. I think, especially Lee Johnson, I think not many of them had that same type of accident where they were literally soaked in the product.
Yeah.
So, you know, not only is he living with the cancer, but he has lesions on top of that. But it was really, really hard to see. It was really, really hard to see. And I think I'm hopeful, you know, that, you know, now that, you know, all of this has been brought to the light, that, you know, this is something else for people to be more mindful of, and at least they have the knowledge and they're equipped with that to be able to make the decisions that they need to.
Right.
Lee Johnson's outro song, or he's an artist also. You can follow him at Ant Lee. But he had an outro song. I'm in a fight with a monster, but I'm still alive. And I was like, yeah, guys,
Him and his crew alive. Too. Don't forget his lawyer. Me and my crew something. There was the line that was pretty catchy. I was hoping you'd remember.
Yeah, I don't. But I know Mike and Brent, those are the two leads of the case.
Who leads of the case? They were good.
Yeah.
They were good. They were funny. They knew how to really touch the jury too, from like also just like
exactly
the emotional side. Yeah, because it's like, yes, the facts are important, but you gotta connect with people on the heart of it, on the people side of things. And what was it? I think it was in the closing statement. The guy was like, which one was it, Mike or maybe not? It wasn't Mike. It was the other one.
Yeah, it would have been Brent. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he was like, right now, Monsanto's ready to pop champagne. They just know that you're not going to find them guilty. They've got them on speed dial, ready to pop champagne. Like, it was so funny. And then one of the judge was like, speculation. I don't know. One of them said that, but
they did. And
yeah,
even in like the opening statement, like, you know, they were very much trying to like, or not trying to, but they were very much painting a picture of like, this is a case about like choice. Like people need to be able to have choice and be able to have the knowledge, equipped with the knowledge. Like if you know information and you're actively keeping that from people, like that is the problem in itself. Obviously, like you've got a great product, but you're not letting people know the effects of this product, and that is harmful. Like Lee is literally coming to you for help and support, and you are ignoring him. Like misconduct. Like that is the problem, and that cannot be left unchecked.
Agreed. Just the lack of care overall. Like I don't even understand. I just feel like such a big company, your customer service department, not even one response back. Like I just think that's just you just show you really don't care. You don't care at all.
I do not, but you know, I think it's been really interesting, I think, to see all of these, you know, films. And I think the very next one, I don't think it directly targets a corporation, but these first three absolutely like really showed us like what it means to take on a corporation and win, you know, to really be able to have victory on the other side of that when everyone comes together and fights, for the truth and for what's fair and what's right for all. So
the key theme is coming together. Like, nobody could have done any of these things on their own in all of these films. Like, people always had to come together in order to make any type of progress on this.
Certainly, especially in like legal cases like this, like they really needed to come together because there was no way any one of these people were going to have the financial backing to take on a corporation for 4 years. Like,
right. Or the skill set. You need a bunch of different skills, a bunch of people who are good in different areas. Like, all that goes into the research, the discovery on all this, the actual being in court. And like, I mean, that all requires all these different types of roles.
Absolutely. But yeah, that was one of the last kind of quotes is just, are you ready to look after your own territory? And I think I really want to charge us with that this week, even as we think about Veterans Day and all of the veterans that, give their lives and take it upon themselves to look after their territory by, securing or just by fighting on our behalf, and really thankful for the people that, do what I cannot.
Yes. Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there, and all the veterans in our lives too. I know both me and Jazz have veterans in our lives, so this is a happy Veterans Day. Yes.
Shout out
my
to
dad, my sister. Just want to say happy Veterans Day to everybody. Oh, my grandpa.
Shout out to the fam.
Shout out to the fam, and I'm so sorry if I missed anybody, but it's a happy Veterans Day to all. And join us next week to discuss, what are we talking about next week? Which is the film, Jazz?
Invisible Valley. That'll be the final film, Invisible Valley, directed by Aaron Maurer and Zach McMillan. That'll be the final film of the Food Justice Film Festival.
Food Justice Film Festival. Nice. All right. And catch up with us on Facebook and Instagram. We post our episode links, synopsis, our fun this or that, and just what you can expect next time. All right. See you soon.
Until next week. Bye.
Love inside the eyes of a lover who will leave me alone.
That was Zach Seals with Dearly Departed. Oysters, whether raw, fried, baked, grilled, steamed, half-shelled, or smothered, are truly a food after many a heart. The DMV loves oysters, from the restaurant and bars of DC to the shores of Maryland and Virginia. They're fun, versatile, and easy. While they're not my favorite seafood, I can't deny their appeal, and when my friends recommend an oyster tower to go with our lemon drops, I rarely say no. So without further ado, this is the story of food, Oyster Edition.
Little oysters, but answer there came none. And this was scarcely odd because they'd been eaten, every one.
Oyster, which comes from the Old French ostre, is a general term for different groups of saltwater bivalve mollusks. The taste of a plain oyster can vary greatly. They could be salty, briny, sweet, creamy, or have mineral undertones. It truly depends on the region and the type of water the oyster lives in. Much like tofu, oysters strongly take on the flavor of their surrounding environments. Rappahannock oysters, for example, are sweet, as the fresh water gives them a lower salinity. But in general, East Coast oysters tend to be brinier and saltier, and they are more likely to hold a solid piece all the way through, with more of a textured bite. Whereas West Coast oysters tend to be sweeter and more custard-like. In the Chesapeake Bay and its tributaries, you'll find the Crassotrea virginica species of oyster, or the eastern oyster. Virginia is the oyster capital of the East Coast. Over 40 million oysters are harvested and sold from local Virginia waterways each year. In Virginia, there are 8 different regions within the bay from which they are harvested, which leads to a very diverse spread of oysters. Maryland is still a sizable contributor as well, with $9 million in sales from harvested oysters each year in 5 different oyster harvesting regions. So a little backstory. The consumption of oysters is no new phenomenon. Indigenous Americans have been eating oysters for thousands of years and were skilled in their harvesting and management of the oyster beds. The oldest documented food eaten in Virginia by colonizers was oysters. They were eaten at the Jamestown settlement in 1607 and often pulled from the James River. Oysters became a staple of the colonists' diet as they were both plentiful and easy to obtain. At first, they began to gather them by hand, but then they switched to dredging. Enslaved individuals began to eat and dredge oysters as well as early as the initial Jamestown settlements. The oysters supplemented poor rations, and the skills used to gather the oysters proved fruitful when slavery ended. Freedmen took those skills to the waterways to build new lives for themselves. Before the onset of canning, oysters were only eaten locally, but canning allowed them to be eaten countrywide. From there, the popularity exploded. Oysters can be cooked many different ways, taking on a variety of flavors. One relatively easy yet very popular method of consumption is simply serving half-shucked oysters raw on ice, similar to a traditional shrimp bar. I say relatively because in order to properly execute this technique, one must know how to properly shuck an oyster. Shucking the oyster is the process of bisecting and exposing the fresh meat, generally done with a specialized tool and frequently done professionally by professional oyster shuckers, oyster experts, if you will. It may seem fairly straightforward, however, there are certain steps that both pro shuckers and shucking hobbyists follow for optimum oyster enjoyment. Beginning with unlocking the shell via a knife placed in the shell hinge, like a thief picking a lock or a key unlocking a chest. Then, still, the shucker must gracefully slip the knife in between the shell and locate the abductor muscle, which is then sliced in order to release the tension holding the shell together. At this point, one can finally fully open their oyster and reap its rewards. You can also steam, bake, fry, grill, or load them up Rockefeller style. There truly is no limit to what you can do with oysters. Eastern oysters historically served as a keystone species for the Chesapeake Bay. The oysters act as a filler for the bay, and their reefs can also help protect the coasts. The prevalence of oysters in the Chesapeake Bay and their incorporation into the day-to-day diet by all the groups who have lived here have created a strong appreciation for oysters within the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. Although pollution, overharvesting, and diseases led to a massive drop in the population, the oyster harvests are currently being restored through protective measures. Maryland and Virginia are also currently in the midst of an oyster boom, with their highest yields in 35 years.
As always, I'm your host, Seychelle Amira, and we thank you for joining us on Equal Portions. I want to give a special thanks to our producers and co-hosts, Zion X. Richardson and Jasmine Lawrence. We hope you enjoyed the episode and continue to stay up to date with us on our socials.